And to celebrate the anniversary, I wanted to sing a happy birthday song in Polish. And then I realized that the happy birthday song in Polish is 100 lat niech żyje nam, which means may you live for 100 years, which would not be very appropriate on the 90th anniversary. So I just stay with happy birthday. And thank you for having me over. I would also like to thank the interpreter who has been doing a wonderful job. And I always sympathize with interpreters as I used to do it myself. So I do appreciate your work, and I thank you for that time and energy. Okay, well, I will sort of stay with your last impressions, because there is something that I'm not proud of and not satisfied with in my topic, but there are also rays of hope in my presentation. And I will also talk a little bit about history. But before I go to the actual problems, let me give you a brief picture of what legal profession is in Poland. What is the structure? Because this is the key to the problems. When you get out of high school and you are 18 years old, you need to decide what are your plans for the future. And this is where you hit the button and say, I'm going to be a lawyer. You go to law school, you study there for 5 years, then you go to the apprenticeship program, which lasts between 2.5 and 3.5 years. And then you hit the bar exam, the final exam, get the license, and go to practice. There are 5 major legal professions in Poland, and that is judge, prosecutor, legal advisor, advocate, and public notary. I will only talk about advocates and legal advisors because it's as unique as it could be in Europe and probably worldwide, the division. I will skip public notaries for some reasons. I will skip prosecutors and judges for the reason that we are right this week having a huge scandal concerning corruption and ethical issues with judges and prosecutors involved. And since I would not like to base my presentation on the media cover on it, maybe next time I'll tell you the full story when the verdicts are out. But the problem of ethics really concerns the unique division into legal advisors and advocates. And here's where the history begins. And I'll beat you because I'll take you as far as 1,000 years ago to 1016, which is where the first Polish king came back from a successful war with Saxony and decided that all the widows and children of those who died in the war will have a legal representation in their fights for inheritance issues paid by state. And this is where the history of Polish advocates began. I will not stay here for 3 hours and take you through the rest of the history up until today, but this is where it all began, so it's very well rooted and it's very prestigious, and the profession has always been known as the legal profession. And it lasted as this until the World War II, where the advocates were actually taken underground. When the organization of advocates in Poland was completely destroyed, 55% of all advocates and legal apprenticeship participants died or were killed during the war. And the profession was pretty much treated as the enemy of the newborn state after the war was over. It so happened that a year after the war was over, a decree came out from the Ministry of Justice allowing anyone to become an advocate by the special decision of the Minister of Justice. You didn't even have to go to law school to become an advocate. So the big repression began, and it lasted up until 80s and 90s of this century. In 1963, a law was passed prohibiting advocates from practicing individually. They were not allowed to practice individually, and they were not allowed to represent state enterprises. Go figure, everything was state-owned back then, right? So they were pretty much deprived of their legal rights, and they were deprived of jobs whatsoever. So you may think, so where did the legal representation came from then? Like, what did they do? Well, the communist regime decided they are going to organize their own army of lawyers. Why would they need an army of lawyers? But good lawyers, friends of the regime. Well, there were millions of new regulations. There were different new laws passed. There were procedures. No one understood them, including those who passed them, right? There was a big need for legal representation and legal advice. And not very clever people were running the country back then. Not very clever people were heads of public administration departments and so on. They needed some legal help. So they had law school graduates, and they opened a new profession for them. This is where the history of legal advisors begin. They created a new group, a new profession, to help the communist regime run the state-owned business, run the agricultural reform, and so on and so forth. And they pretty much, during the communist regime, replaced the role of advocates. Advocates were still present, and they did their jobs, but they mostly did divorces, they mostly did family law, they were taken completely out of civil business trade cases and so on. And past 1963, only legal advisors were allowed to represent state enterprises. So that was their big job, that was their big field, and it stayed this way up until 1982, when new law was passed, dividing completely two new laws, actually, law on advocates and law on legal advisors. So the two professions stayed separate. And these laws are still in force, amended many times, but they are still the basic laws regulating both professions. And they were, since then, you would think, wave of change. Sure, but not a very good one. What happened was access to legal profession became very limited and very protected by local bar associations. And this is where very not satisfying and grotesque history comes, because actually the difference between two professions is nothing. Legal advisors may not represent the accused in criminal proceedings. Other than that, they can do the same, right? They have the same rights, obligations, and duties, but the bar associations are different. So they are gathered in under different local self-governing bodies. Well, so they decided, okay, there cannot be many of us. And local regional bar associations controlled entrance exams to the apprenticeship program. And to give you an example of my own, when I graduated from the law school, didn't really have the right genes, my parents were not lawyers, there were only 4 people who got to the advocate apprenticeship program. 4 out of about 50 applicants. The entrance exams were oral and written, but the oral exams tested legal knowledge and the general knowledge. One of the questions during the year that my colleagues took the exam, testing the general knowledge, was, so how many butterfly species are there in Poland, you think? I don't know. There was no Google back then. And that was shocking as it may sound today, this was the story, and we all lived in this reality. There is an old but good joke about it. There's an apprenticeship entrance exam, and the candidate comes in and he answers the legal questions, and then he's asked by the president of the commission, so you've decided to become a lawyer, very responsible, very ethical, very important job for the society. What was your motivation to do so? Oh, come on, Dad. No joke. That's what happened, and it was pretty obvious. So the bar associations were closed, protected. There were not many lawyers going into the market, right? Which was, well, I don't even have to add that, right, that it was unethical, right? And it put the entire profession, the social reflection of the profession was terrified. right? I mean, how can you trust them? How can you even think they are good if you can't become one of them? Law school graduates had it in their mind. They knew that the professions were closed. Not the judge profession, not the prosecutor, but the two major lawyer professions were closed. The change came in 2005, where finally a group of very frustrated, annoyed, not to use the worst words, people, students who tried to get to the apprenticeship programs for like 5 years, put together a group named Fair Play. And then they began a campaign, a governmental campaign, leading to the change and reform of the law. The law is called Gosiewski law. Gosiewski was a member of the parliament, the very right-wing Polish party who died in the airplane crash, the presidential plane crash. But his sculpture in the legal reform is big, because that was his law, and the law opened access to the profession, took away the right of local bar associations to control entrance exams. Entrance exams now are state, test, the same, on the same day in every big city. The exams are written by the professionals. They are in a closed envelope. It's a very open and very fair exam now. Multiple choice test, 150 questions. As a result, again, not to go into too many details, in 2009, I told you in 2001, 4 out of almost 50, right? So that's less than 10%. Got to the apprenticeship program. In 2009, 76.9% got in for advocate apprenticeship, and 76.7% of the total got to the legal apprenticeships programs. Between 2005, where the new law was introduced, and 2010, number of advocates increased by 1/3. And it's estimated that by 2013, there will be 85% more advocates than in 2005. Is it good? Yes and no, obviously, right? But that it's an open now, access to profession is open. We are now hitting the records of Europe. In Poland, there are 1,012 citizens per one lawyer, which gives us 11th position in Europe. And we're going right up because of more lawyers entering the market, obviously. Do you know, here's a quiz. Who's the winner in Europe? Who has the highest number of lawyers? No. Huh? Who? I didn't hear. Any? No. Paul? No. We are 11th. UK? Yeah. No. Italy. Oh. Italy. 279 citizens per lawyer. Who's on the other side? We have a representative here. No. Finland.
No, that's
2,935 citizens per lawyer.
But how many lawyers compared to the what did you say the first was? How many?
279 citizens per lawyer. In Finland, almost 3,000 citizens per lawyer.
UK is less.
You think so?
I don't. I just checked.
Okay, we'll do this is 2010, so maybe it's now a little bit changing. But still, the big picture is what it is, right? And Poland, having no advocates whatsoever, is now going up, right? Producing more and more lawyers. Is it good? Is it bad? You will very well know that you're letting more people into the profession, you're letting better and worse people into the profession, but the market will eventually regulate it, which is what at least I want to believe in. Now, so we are past 2005. In 2012, new ideas come to deregulate legal professions. Minister of Justice put together an idea to deregulate 230 professions in Poland. So you don't need license right? Or at least way to get license is less detailed and less complicated, and lawyers are on the list. We are on the list, so we fight against it, right? Again, because we want to protect the jobs, right, and the environment. So this is the state of facts. And I'm not very proud of the history. I'm semi-proud of the present, right? And what are my two hopes for the future? Hope number one is, even though if you think lawyers and ethics, you think white and black. Still, and it's changing. Where does it come from? My strong belief is that there are two reasons for it. Number one, that legal ethics are not taught in Polish law schools. It is only now, this year, that law schools in Poland introduced courses on legal ethics. The question was, how do we teach legal ethics? Well, we can't just read the codes, and you have to keep in mind the codes for legal ethics for advocates and legal advisors in Poland, they come from 2011 and 2007. They are not laws. They are resolutions of the bar associations. So how do we teach it? Well, here's the answer. We published a book based on American experience. We transformed it into Polish conflict of interests and diligence issues, and we put together a book, How to Teach Legal Ethics in Polish Law Schools. And boom, starting this year, half of Polish law schools have obligatory legal ethics courses, including my school, which I'm very proud of. So that's number one, education. From the very beginning, first-year law students should be taught to be aware of what the profession is really about, not the codes. And if you think of ethics as knowledge of morality, you can say, as one of our politicians said, well, you either have it or not. Well, if it's not digged out from you, you may not know you have it. And hope number two is pro bono programs. And I know that there will be presentations on the pro bono work of lawyers. And again, Poland, there is a hope in Poland. We opened a pro bono center for law firms, big law firms in Poland who help now NGOs, free of charge. It is to decurse the legal profession. It is to show the society that they are not as bad as the society thinks. And let's not fool ourselves. Legal professions in every country in the world do not have the best publicity. But it's the publicity that the lawyers may work on by very simple yet very useful things. Teaching lawyers to be that it's social responsibility, that it's professional responsibility, that it's a social mission as well, on the top of money. And then by being professionals who can give up the money and help those who need that help. Well, with those two rays of hope, it's easier to forget the very dissatisfying past. Thank you very much.